Hey everybody, this is Timothy Bennett here.
Darren Banyan.
Jason Chandler.
And welcome to B&B Banter Bros Goes to the Movies. Tonight, we're going to be discussing a new Netflix original show that we all got a little excited about. Another comic book series, for that matter. And that is Sweet Tooth.
Yep.
That is being produced by Robert Downey Jr. and his wife. So...
And the story comes from DC Comics, right?
Yeah, I think it was DC. Yep.
Yeah.
Was it a DC or was it like a Dark Horse, which is like a DC offshoot?
I think it was DC.
Was it straight
It was
DC?
straight up DC.
Couldn't remember.
But yeah, so let's first start off with the fact that if this gets canceled too, I'm done with Netflix. I'm putting it out there. So this better get a fucking season 2. I'm not gonna have my heart ripped out of my chest for a second time in like a 1 month.
Tim's had enough.
I've had enough. So
Have you looked into any budgeting issues? Because we looked into Jupiter's Legacy and found out they spent $200 million on that show. That's technically why it got canceled, because they burnt themselves to the ground making that shit.
yeah, it was a budget issue. There was a lot of producing,
Writing.
It was a lot of like studio issues. So like the writer wanted like 12 million per episode, and then Netflix was basically like, well, we'll give you 8 million or something like that. And yeah, I know there was just a lot of complications. He apparently left the show at the last episode, and
Fuck
so they
that
had
guy.
to So he was a prolific screenwriter too. He's something D Knight.
Oh yeah, I feel like I know that name.
He's written a lot of stuff, but he unfortunately
Fucking A.
they kind of
Even at $8 million an episode, you wouldn't have been cool with $64 million for like one show when you're
Right.
writing other shit too.
Right.
well here's the
Greedy
thing.
bastard.
Here's the thing I said about it was like, okay, so he got whatever, and then when they failed and they canceled, he made a statement saying, "Oh, I guess they should have paid me 12 million, and it would have still been up." I'm like, that's an asshole move right there.
Yeah.
Fucking
For
trying
sure.
to say, oh well, Marvel, Disney and Marvel, they got to pay their writers millions of dollars. I'm like, well, this ain't Disney. This is Netflix.
Okay, I was gonna say that's Disney and Marvel who have like more money than God at this point.
Yep. So, anyway, I just wanted to get it out there. If this gets canceled, I'm fucking done. I'm done with
I
Netflix.
agree, because I fucking love this show, this story, the characters, the world. Yeah, I'm going to use the word love a lot in this fucking episode.
Right.
Because...
So this podcast, if this gets canceled, this podcast will just literally just be us every week tearing Netflix apart for an hour and a half.
Which they deserve.
Yeah. We'll just
Bombard
pick
them with
one show a week out and just fucking rip it to shreds.
right. Just bombard them with hate mail. So let's get off with what Jason just said, gentlemen. Did we like it? Aaron, let's start with you.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. I mean, I was intrigued when I saw the ads for it and like the previews. And I thought it was interesting, and I was pleasantly surprised by the whole thing. Like I said, I took sparse notes because I was just kind of wrapped into like watching the story unfold.
Yeah. Now, did you know it was based off a comic? Have you read the comics?
I knew
or
it was
anything?
based off the comic by reading about it.
Okay.
I didn't know of the comic book, obviously, but I knew it was based off, and I know that they took some liberties because I believe the comic book itself is a lot darker. And I think Robert Downey Jr. said that they didn't want to go that dark with it, so they left it a little brighter.
A little more
Even though the show's
family.
still pretty dark.
It is.
Yeah.
A little more
But, like,
family oriented.
Apparently, the comic book is a lot darker, from what I understand.
Yep.
That makes me curious to look into it.
Yeah, for
this,
sure.
this world and the sickness is dark and all that, but there's a lot of hope and charm because of that little kid character, Gus.
Yeah.
So it's bright, and I see what you're
There's so
saying.
many different like parables about like redemption and doing the right thing and like just love in general, like the positive sides of humanity coming through in like the darkest times.
Yeah. It wasn't your
it's-
typical apocalyptic or post-apocalyptic kind of scenario. Even without like the hybrids or whatever situation, or it was that whole humanity thing that you're talking about was
Yeah.
pretty unique that you don't see in other films or
Yeah,
shows.
you definitely get the darker sides of it, but like they show plenty of the brighter sides of humanity at the same time.
Yeah.
You know.
And I thought
Yeah.
that was really interesting.
Jason, did you like this show?
You never listen to me. I love it. I'm in love with this show.
The show's about kids, so you might want to retract that a little bit.
God damn it.
What a way to bring that.
All right, edited. Yeah, I really, really like the show. And fuck, now I don't remember what I was going to say. Tim, how about you?
I loved the show. Was like you, Aram. I was super shocked and more impressed on how much I loved the show, like how much I got enamored with this series, like right away, just from the first episode. I was into it, and Kaylee was watching it with me, and I just turned and said like, I see so much of Wesley in this boy, and it's very weird.
Yep.
And I think that's, if it wasn't so much I'm a dad, and there's just such a weird parallel like you said that I connect with my own son, I don't know if I'd love it or be so emotionally invested into this show.
We'll get into it when we get towards the end of the series or the season. But there's a part where like I was sitting next to Liam, who like I watched it on my computer today, and Liam was sitting next to me like watching or playing video games, something like that. And like there was just one moment where like I just like got hit, and I was like, oh no, and like tears were like rolling down my face. I was like, fuck.
Right.
Because like then I was gonna wait for him to be like, what are you crying about, Dad?
Yeah, I think that was a shocker for me. Was just I wasn't expecting to be so emotionally invested in this character. I also was like, where the fuck have I seen this kid before? He looked so familiar, and I realized that he's the main kid, the main star in Pup Academy, the kids' TV show with all the dogs that can talk and shit. It's like Air Bud. It's called Pup Academy. He's the main kid, and I've shown Wesley this show because he loves dogs. So
Jason and I are old enough to not have watched the show because yeah.
But nevertheless, that I'm concerned for this child actor because he's really fucking good.
Yeah.
At his body language, facial expression, acting, deliver believable this and that, and most child celebrities or whatever, go down the wrong path. But
well, he hasn't done a lot of work either, so this is kind of his big breakout.
He should be well known after this and famous, and people should fucking love. It's still on my top 3, that top 10 shit. So it's still in the higher ranks.
Oh yeah,
it's been a few weeks. It's been a few weeks. Yeah, 98% on Rotten Tomatoes. Not that I care about, but that tends to matter when it gets getting picked up for season 2. So
yeah, for sure.
So there are a lot of interesting things about this show with like concept and whatnot. But how did you feel about going into it? Like we said, it's a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah.
So how did you feel about this setting, this world of apocalyptic scenario, and how they introduced this? Because it's not your typical, like we have zombies and then we have plagues, but this is a weird virus string that came about.
This was Outbreak with an added element, essentially. I thought overall the concept was cool, and I'll say this like about the movie itself. Like I liked the way it flowed. Like it flowed like a comic book, where it had you would just bang to different scenes that were not in the same time frame.
Yep.
But it was like it was pulling the story in the right direction, just like a comic book. Like all of a sudden you're just in a different panel, and shit's a different scene. And I thought the whole thing flowed really well. And usually, like, I find that comic book movies tend to like do it improperly. Like when they do that, it doesn't flow very well.
Okay.
But this one did it well, and I really enjoyed that. And I think overall, I think the way they did it, like for this setting, was really well done.
Yeah, I can agree with that. I thought the flow was
Yes, I agree with that.
Very
as well.
proper. Yeah.
But yeah, my opinion on the world, the apocalypse, the virus, I loved it because they kept it simple. They used words like the crumble,
Yep.
the fire, the sick, and they just like because this isn't a new world we haven't seen before. And that's
Yeah.
probably why it flowed so well, is because they just didn't treat us like we were idiots in the writing. They just kept it real simple and just kept the story moving forward. Because they explained that world and what was happening in such detail, and you got the whole grasp of it by the time Will Forte, spoiler alert, passes away. And that's 28 minutes into the first episode.
Yep.
You are totally in that world and engaged and like rooting for those characters and hoping that Will Forte does not die. And I was very impressed with the world and how they did it, painted it.
Yeah. Since I didn't really answer Tim's question, I thought the way that they set up the world was well done. Like, I agree with Jason. I like the way that they kept it simple, in so much as like they didn't overcomplicate what the virus did. They didn't make it so that like the hybrids had some sort of like weird special purpose.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they were just an anomaly that started happening, and they were just an added element. And I think that was the way everyone reacted and like was acting about the disease was, I think, a really smart and like precise way to show like that's probably how most humans would react, and like the way that society would kind of coalesce back together after said crumble.
And
Like,
and we know that because this shit hits close to home going through that pandemic.
Yep. Absolutely.
Whether they were shooting it during or prior, they hit it on the nail.
well, if you watch the first time that the doctor goes to the clinic to get the meds,
Yeah.
he like ties his horse off to a post, and they have a sign that says "Please stand 6 feet apart."
Yep. Yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, that's a weird nod to COVID."
Yeah.
Like, because I think this is years later. I think. Because I think this is 2022 or something like that, isn't it?
I think it is in the future.
Yeah, I don't remember
what
the year, but
Not super far, but like just
Yeah.
enough to like,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because what was it? It was what's the average age? It's got to be like 8 years, because I think Gus is 10 and he's like the oldest.
The
And then
oldest.
Yeah.
You have
So 8 or 9 seems to be the.
and then you have Pigtail, who seems to be basically close to the same age. So,
Yeah.
they got to be pretty young, and so
Well,
that's
because
quite drastic.
Pigtail's sister is like 6, she says,
When
and Pigtail
they went
herself looks
missing.
like 2. What?
Yeah, when they went missing. Yeah, I don't know. That's still a long gap of time.
And one last thing
Yeah.
about the world is when Will Forte sees an outsider across the fence, and he's all nervous and with the holding the gun. Their conversation is short, brief, but then that conversation, that dialogue tells you exactly what's happening outside of that cabin that we've been seeing the entire time.
Yep.
And just a few sentences. People have tribed up, they're crewed up, they're fighting each other. And even like Will Forte's like, how is it out there? And the guy just goes, it sucks.
Yep.
And then they give you, and then that's all I got to say about that world and how it was painted.
Right, for sure.
Gunshots. You live in St. Cloud. No, you don't.
Yeah, I think that conversation was pretty pertinent, and I think that one thing I was like, can you trust what he's saying though?
Right.
Like, you don't know anything. That's the whole point. Is right, but you really, after you find out a little bit later.
Well, that's why you understand why Will Forte was so fucking nervous.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah. His paranoia was justified. It was rightfully justified.
Well, and I think, his paranoia was justified, and I think you see that in so much like when he's talking to that guy, the guy seems pretty earnest. Like, he's not telling the truth, but at the same time, like, you're getting the impression he's telling the truth up until Gus makes a noise.
Yeah.
And then his demeanor, like, kind of switches.
yeah.
And that's when, like, Will Forte gets, like, kind of uptight and whatnot, too. But, like, I think that's just telling in that conversation, like, what's a lot of what's up.
Yeah. Did I answer my what was the question I asked? The world? Did I answer?
What'd you think
Yeah,
about the world?
I thought this was really cool because one of the things I've always fantasized, especially in like video games and stuff, but one particular video game I think about is Darksiders with War, you know, the Horsemen of the Apocalypse and stuff.
Yeah.
War, the first one. Death was the second one.
So the world that they're in is basically like the city, but it's overgrown and stuff. And it kind of reminded me of like I Am Legend too, with the whole overgrown. But I absolutely loved this scenery. Like this was this beautiful land, and it was all like streets and bridges just covered over with fields. It seems so pure. And you get to see that later on with the zoo animals, like the giraffe and the elephants and stuff, trample on a field in like Idaho or something.
Which,
You know-
by the way, did anyone else go, those animals wouldn't have survived because they're not native to this area?
I did mention that too.
They're
but,
African. Like, why would they have survived in fucking the Midwest?
hey, you never know.
There's winter.
Production location, New Zealand.
Yeah. But that was something I thought was really beautiful about this, and I think it had a really big effect on me as well as how much I was intrigued because
Well, and one of the things that I liked is that, you know, they talked about the flowers.
yeah.
The representations of when the sick was coming or was prevalent, those purple flowers started popping up. And I thought that was very interesting that they used something like the color purple, which was such a vibrant color compared to everything else.
Yep.
Like, was just a signal of something terrible happening when, like, in all honesty, like, your natural reaction is seeing something that bright and that vibrant would be like, oh, that's nice.
Yep. But, you know, in the forest or in the jungle, when you see a bright frog or a bright creature, you might want to stay away because it's probably going to poisonous. So it was really appropriate. I agree with that. It was a really interesting symbolism to say that. But I want to know more about that, though, because they don't really, I don't think
They don't
know.
delve very far into it because then you have that field of them.
Yeah.
But they're like, they make it seem like that's how you get the sick is like those flowers. But like,
It seems more
really
than
makes
that,
sense.
too.
They don't really.
it's not how,
They don't
it's not how
dive
a
onto
virus
it, yeah.
spreads.
They don't clearly answer why the virus is, you know, how people get it. Because they're always like blaming the hybrid children and vice versa. But
Yeah.
And
Well, I think
you're
that's
right.
simply
What?
I was gonna say, I think that's simply a blame of like coincidence because like they showed up at the same time. But it basically, the way it looked in the show, like it seemed very much like it was an airborne thing. Because even the doctor's wife says it was because that kid kept sneezing on me.
Yep.
Yeah.
But basically, the show is telling us that the people don't know in that world. They don't have a clear answer why. And
That's that humanity thing. Like, you know, humanity reacts to things they don't understand with fear and anger.
yeah.
And so like but I think that's one of the clear things that's being shown in the series is like that's the negative side of humanity. You know, we don't know what's going on. These things are happening to us, so we don't understand that. So it must be the problem.
Yeah.
And and I think that's just the big like negative side of that whole scene. And then you get the positive sides, you know, between Big Man and like the very few people that they start to interact with that start to change.
Yeah, the humanity, I mean, humans fear the unknown. And that's why we're so, you know, determined to go travel into space the farthest distance that we can, or anytime that there's something, we got to break it down and analyze it, and we got to know everything about everything. And in this show, they didn't have the proper research. They didn't even have the proper time to really figure anything out. It just happened so suddenly. But it was a battle between the virus taking over and affecting people, and then humans falling apart in the midst of everything. And so like there was too much chaos going on, and nobody had the fucking, you know, the only person that was smart was
Will Forte.
Pubba.
Yep.
Pubba. That's
What he's called in the show.
Yep.
Richard Fox is his name.
Yeah, he was the only smart one because he got the fuck out of Dodge and hid in Yellowstone in the middle of the fucking, you know, park. So,
Which is that really a cabin like that in the middle of Yellowstone National Park?
I don't know. I've never been.
I just,
But it would be cool.
And I mean, it'd be cool, but in my mind, I feel like. What?
No, it wasn't worth interrupting you. Go ahead.
I just think in my mind, I was like, someone would have seen that and like either destroyed it or like done something about it. Because it's a national park. No one can live there. I don't think.
Yeah, but I go up north to International Falls every once in a while, and we go on islands. And technically, Rainy Lake is a giant park. It's a national park.
Yeah.
That's watched by Canada and Minnesota patrols. But there are, cabins and stuff that are from like the 1920s and stuff that are on these islands just falling apart. So who knows? It could have been something like that. I'm sure maybe they had some mining or something like that. I mean, it was pretty run down. I think the only thing I thought was weird was they really had that much furniture and shit that was in there. People had
or that much stained glass.
That too, yeah. But
just stained glass all over that fucking cabin.
There's always something you got to choose to ignore in shows.
Yeah, valid.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of characters that we get introduced, but there's just like maybe 6 that we follow that are like the primary characters. I don't remember all of them, but you have
there's
you
there's
have the
Amy
general
in the preserve.
Yep. You have Amy and Pigtails.
Doctor, the general.
Yep. You have the Dr. Singh.
Yep. Singh.
Yep. And his wife.
Yeah.
You have Abbott.
Gus and Big Man.
General Abbott.
sorry.
And then you have Gus and his father. Yep.
Big.
And then you have Big Man, who isn't really individually followed until towards the end. Then you actually get his story. And that was an amazing episode we'll get into a little bit later.
Yeah.
But he comes into play, and I kind of feel like he takes over.
He kind of takes the father role from Will Forte.
As reluctantly, because in the beginning, he wanted to leave that kid at that Yellowstone Park or whatever. You could see it in his eyes.
Well, how many times does he say, like, to other people, they're like, oh, how'd you come along? He's like, I've been trying to get rid of him the whole time.
Yep.
Exactly.
But go for it.
Speaking of characters that we get to know and follow, every episode has a really concise origin story that brings you up to speed. Very, very smooth. Once again, flows very well.
Yep.
And it's just like a 10-minute thing.
Yeah.
And then it gets back to the story.
And they do it right in the beginning of the episode. Like,
exactly.
Literally, like, not even 10 minutes, probably.
Yeah. It's I just love it.
It's on mark. Yeah, I noticed that too, and I thought it was great because they just give you all the important parts.
Yes. And
like the perfect example would be Amy. You learn about Amy, how she was a therapist, and then the shit goes down like instantly, and people start losing their mind. All she did was shut herself into her office, and next thing you know, there's elephants running around. So,
well, yeah, that one I had like an odd problem with because like they make it seem like she's there for weeks upon weeks, but it's like,
I knew
how
you were
is
going to
she
say
eating, and where is she getting the fucking plants? Like, and like in the weeks and weeks and however long she was in that fucking office, and then she finally goes out one day, and then she catches the elephants. Like, I don't feel like it should have taken that long for the elephants to have gotten loose from the zoo.
Nah, if you want to pick it apart, there's some flaws in that one, but
I don't think because they don't tell you, but I think it's just indicating that it was a long enough time.
Yeah, that's all I think they were trying to express is that she was stuck in there and barely made it out.
Or maybe
she listened to everybody die or, around her.
Yeah. I just, for some reason, like I locked onto that in that episode. I was like, why the fuck did they make it seem like she was in there for months?
Yeah, they definitely
because
did.
Isolation for months would have driven someone insane.
Even a therapist.
Well, she was already coming unhinged. I think she said she was dealing with, she wasn't all there or something. So.
Yeah, the narrator basically says she lived in a cage. Like she was kind of just like checked out of her own life. So maybe. Which, by the way, I'm gonna say I loved James Brolin as the fucking narrator.
Oh,
I thought he was phenomenal.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had to look it up. I couldn't.
So did I.
Place his. Okay, cool. Because I couldn't place his voice. It was so familiar.
Yeah.
But
it's not as deep as I'm used to for James Brolin.
That's crazy
Yeah, I
because that's a pretty deep voice. It's a raspy.
Well, yeah, I'm used to it being a little deeper.
country.
Like he sounds older, and like he's got this old sort of like
Yeah.
feel to it.
Yeah.
It's phenomenal.
How did you
writing
like
of
the
it and-
narrating? How did you like
loved
that?
it.
That
I
they did?
love
simple
the-
and perfect.
I love the way it seemed like he was telling a story around a campfire.
Yeah,
Like that
That's
he
how I
was he
felt.
was doing oral history versus like just reading from a book.
And
Yeah.
what were some of his like I don't know his hooks he would use like
Well,
some
like
people.
and like I think the first one was like, most stories begin
Yes, yes.
with this, but if you really want to understand Gus's story, you have to go back to this.
Yeah,
Like, and he does
yeah.
that with like a few of them. Like, this is
and
how
it's
usually
so-
these stories go.
And it's so simple, but the way he like delivers it is like poetic or some shit. And he's got a couple of hooks like
Yeah.
that just grabbed me, and he kept. I don't know, I can't think of them, but yeah, I loved the narration. It really boosted my
Yeah,
rating.
he was
of the
phenomenal.
show. Yeah.
I don't think they could have gotten someone better to do it.
No. But Tim, you were talking about characters and stuff, and then I got on to a tangent about origin stories. Did you get to your question or your point?
Well, I was gonna say because I mean, you kind of led into it. What would be your character that you like the most, or you found yourself like following or wanting to, like you were excited to see more of when they were coming? Because, like I said, we see a lot of them, and it kind of bounced around. But did you have a particular character that you wanted to see more of, or like what was going to happen next throughout the series? Because there's one, because everybody comes all full circle in some shape or form.
right?
It basically shows like this a small world kind of thing.
Okay.
Because
But
I'm going to
they
go out on a
also
limb.
drastically all
and
change.
I'm going to go out on a limb and take the unpopular opinion. I actually want to learn more about General Abbott and his origin stuff. Because you got
I get
about
that.
him.
No,
I get that, man. Whoever that actor is killing it. Like
Yeah,
he is.
for sure.
he's
that was one thing
uncomfortably creepy.
I looked up this cast. Other than James
Mm-hmm.
Brolin, I know none of these people.
Me
Oh,
too.
Will Forte. Sorry, I forget for Will Forte.
Oh
Like,
yeah, yeah.
Everyone else,
Yeah.
I couldn't pick them out of a fucking lineup.
Nonso, I've seen him in stuff. He's Big Man. I've seen him
Yeah.
in some stuff.
I knew
And
he'd
I've
done
always
stuff, but I don't
liked
think
him.
I've ever seen it.
Yep. And obviously the kid, I said I saw him in Pup Kid because they took me. I'm like, who the hell is this kid? And then I looked him up. I'm like, Pup Academy. It's like what the show Wesley likes to watch. So
Yeah, it's kind of hard to pick one, Tim. Because in the beginning of the show, Big Man, I'm rooting for that guy. I'm loving that guy. Towards the middle
Yeah.
of the show, I'm like, I give a fuck about the doctor now.
yeah,
And then towards the end of it, I'm like, oh shit, I care about Amy, and I'm like concerned about the doctor, and then Big Man, what happens to him? I don't know. So I guess Big Man would be my favorite, but like you said, they all change throughout the series or show.
I'd like to add, I'm actually very intrigued with the doctor and his wife's story because the wife
Yeah.
seems like she's acting out of desperation. So she's being pushed into like being okay with doing more and more horrible things because she wants to live, and the husband's just kind of like going along for the ride almost because he wants to live so badly.
doing it because he loves her. And
Yeah.
he's
Yeah.
obligated because of that.
Yeah, and he's just sort of following. He's always kind of following her lead, and because she's dying and she's getting desperate, he's being moved into these other positions that like he doesn't want to do, but he's doing it because of his
It goes
wife.
against his. Yeah, he
Yeah.
hates what he's doing, but he loves her so much.
Yeah, I think that is actually very interesting, and I'm actually intrigued to see where they go with that.
Yep. And even like when he made that decision at the final episode about getting a new patient,
Yeah.
rather than
Because he wanted more time with that one.
yeah, he saw without saying any words. Gus didn't say any words. He saw something special.
thanks.
about
He said,
this-
he said thanks.
What?
Yeah, he said thanks under his breath after he gives him the chocolate bar.
Yeah, he said thanks.
Oh, okay.
And very soft and subtle, but he says thanks.
Yes,
Okay.
like he whispers
Right.
it to just the doctor.
I didn't go to my hearing appointment I talked about last episode, so
Here we are making him look like an asshole again.
that's what
Well,
I'm
he's
here
the asshole. He didn't go to his hearing appointment.
for. Yeah.
That's why he's yelling in his microphone right now.
You really are right up.
Um, yeah, I honestly, I think that it is tough because
to choose one, yeah.
to choose one, but to say for me, I'd have to say that Big Man is probably my favorite.
Yeah, I get that.
I like the actor. I also like that he's a big guy, and like this boy is a very tiny little boy. Who better to have next to you than somebody who can take on a goddamn truck? So, and the funny thing is in the comics. So I read the first like couple volumes. I think there's maybe four. There's 40. I think there's like 40 issues to this.
Yeah.
This comic, but I read them a long time ago, and I didn't really get into them that much. Like this was probably like 8 years ago. I was at Chipotle when I read them, and he Big Man carries them around on his shoulders,
like Freak the Mighty.
Most of it. Yeah, and I don't think he did that once that I can recall.
No.
So I was like, oh.
I think Big Man is an interesting character. I feel like the arc of his character is kind of what's the fucking word? It's expected, I guess. Like I can kind of see the arc of his character coming. Yeah, predictable. That's the word I was looking for.
This show has
I would think that, like I say, Abbott and the Doctor are the two that I think have the ability to really come out of left field.
Yeah, they have more mystery to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, see, in Big Man, I think throughout the show, up until the last episode, then you get Big Man's backstory, and that right there was such a powerful episode for so many reasons. Like the way they ended this goddamn series was spot on. Like this is why if it gets canceled, I'm fucking losing it. I'm gonna move to Alaska.
They have Netflix in Alaska. I don't think that's going to solve your problem.
You can't run from Netflix or your problem.
They're like the
mob.
I
might burn something. But Big Man, you had this image and this kind of they were giving you this idea of who he is.
Yeah.
Just to find out later that that's not at all what it was. And that whole last episode just blew me away when he's sitting there in the elevator and he's like runs away from the doctor because his wife had his baby and it's like, oh, you have, he's first thing he says is
it's a hybrid.
Is it human?
Yeah.
And she's like, well, it's a healthy boy.
Yeah, I like how she didn't answer.
Yeah. And so when he found it out and then he ran away and then that doctor, that whole small world kind of thing, I thought that was great. And it was basically the doctor that turned him around because he was going to run. He was going to leave his child and his wife right there in the hospital and just fucking run. But he didn't. And that was the shit. I'm like...
The doctor's line of like, you'd be amazed what you can do for the people you love.
Yeah.
Or what you will do for the people you love. But I think what the more interesting line about Big Man is in the second episode when they go visit, they see that family in the weird tram center.
Yep.
And they're talking about the fact that like they're alluding to the fact that he was some sort of bad guy for a while, and he's like, we all did what we did to survive. And the lady's like, well, we didn't kill people, we didn't rob, we didn't steal. And he's like, yeah, you guys didn't do it because you had people like me to do it for you.
Yeah.
And I thought that was a really like that was kind of a left field sort of comment, and like it pushed you in a certain direction on his character. And then they give you the whole backstory in the last episode, which was just a complete shot to the other side.
Yeah,
because it was really well done.
He accepted what was happening. He's like, yeah, I can't run. It was fear of love that he was running from, not fear that he had a hybrid child. But then when they came back and they're like, oh, but it was too late. And I'm like, oh man, they died. And he's like, somebody took them. I'm like, where the fuck did they go? Like, who takes it? Like, who takes this woman? So that right there was enough. It was just like mind blowing. Then he went down this other weird path. It was like nothing what I expected. I think that was why I liked that so much.
I was intrigued by the idea that there were so many intersecting storylines because, like, when you talk about Big Man having a child and having a hybrid child, they even alluded to that earlier on when he's on the train. Mm-hmm. And I, for some reason, thought Pigtail was his daughter.
Yeah.
Up until they said, he had a boy. And I was like, well, that's not right then. But, like, then you get who Pigtail really is. And then all of a sudden I was like, okay, well, what the fuck?
Right.
I thought all those intersecting storylines was really well done.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm looking forward to when they all meet and when they...
I'm just looking forward to it not being canceled.
Yeah.
At this point, that's all it's going to take. Second season? Yay! Happiness.
They keep putting stuff on like other shows saying, oh, it's official, another season is coming. I better fucking see that on Sweet Tooth in like the next week.
Right.
Yeah.
So, did you find that there's a... I don't know. They all bridged off into like their own little communities with each story, right? They were drastically different. You had Bear, right, who's in her own little Neverland
Animal
Ranch.
Army.
Yep.
Yeah,
And
Did you say Neverland Ranch?
He did. You know what he
Where's
meant.
Michael?
Don't do it. God damn you. You had to.
and you have
you
the
just meant
last man
Neverland.
or the last
Yeah, no.
man,
The Last
right?
Men. The Last Men.
Yeah. And like they're the bad guys. Then you have
They're
the community.
they're what the military became.
They're basically Nazis, though.
Well, yeah.
They're
I'm just saying
the
that's
ones-
that's where
yeah.
the military went.
Then you have the community that the doctor and his wife are in, and stuff.
The gated
Then you
community.
Have, yep, Gus and his father out in the woods and things. What in a situation like that? Do you know where you would want to stand if you had a choice? Where would you favor yourself in that position? Because I was thinking about that the entire time I was watching the show, and each thing came out. I'm like,
That's a good question.
where would I want to be? Because there's so many conflicts. There's so many things that have to be played. But
So I'll break it down like this. I know that I'm not a military guy, so I wouldn't fit in there. Like, I couldn't do that. Essentially, I mean, not even just because of what they stand for, but, like, I'm not cut out for military life. I couldn't do the gated... What's up?
you could be a bookkeeper. You could be a pencil pusher.
I couldn't do the gated community either because of just the way that they were running things. Like, I don't let fear run my life in that respect. Like, I couldn't do it. Like, so I think I'd probably end up more like Gus and his dad, like probably I probably wouldn't be in the woods, but I mean, I'd probably be living in like a house or something kind of on my own.
More like the
lady in the zoo.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, you got the lady in the zoo too.
her
That's
for a
another
while.
one.
Yeah.
That would be my choice because
But
I can't
that'd
live off
probably
the
be what I
land.
do.
I can't kill people, and I can't. That community shit was fucking. They're crazy.
That was fucked.
I want to talk about that.
The you also, but you're probably thinking more like when Gus goes to his mom's house and then her best friend is there. You're thinking more like that.
Oh,
I'd probably be that
Just
person.
turn into a hermit in some suburban house somewhere.
Dressing like a hippie for no reason.
Right. What about you, Jason?
Yeah, I would. Secluded, solitary. I would be the lady in the zoo or whatever. Everything I just said.
Yeah, I think I would be. I'd have to go with the Gus. The living in the woods thing. I would like to think I could do that at least. Be self-efficient and just isolated.
Mm-hmm.
But that was probably the safest, most secure. And he was there for 10 years.
Right.
Fucking
Untouched.
10 years untouched, yeah.
So 9 years
that to
untouched.
me-
He spent his
9
10th
years,
year
yeah.
was.
That's when shit went south. But that to me seems the safest spot away from everyone else. Because
Yep.
it's not the world, it's the people, in
you
the
cannot
world.
trust them.
Yeah.
Yep. And
At
so
all.
the farthest thing, the best
Exactly.
thing you can do is get away from them. And yeah, you have strength and numbers and all that bullshit, but in this situation, you can't trust anybody. And you see that with the military. Even the military people, switch sides. You get that with Big Man. And then you have, like what we're going to bring up is that community. That's fucking bullshit. That's some,
Yeah,
that's
for
some
sure.
fucking cult type shit.
That is big. That's like 1984 Big Brother shit right there.
Yeah, that fucking
Big Brother's in
Nancy,
1984.
that Nancy chick. I was so happy when she got kicked by the horse.
When that horse kicked her in the fucking face.
When Trixie just fucking.
That
I was like,
a hell yeah moment. And there's a lot of them in this show, but yeah, that was
the
one.
greatest part is James Brolin is fucking narrating at that point, like saying, "Oh, you'd be amazed at the things you do for the people you love," and the fucking horse just waylays her in the fucking mouth.
Yep. But what I liked about that particular episode, or that particular scene in that episode, is their blood, like their hands are clean of blood still. You know what I mean? Like the doctor hasn't gotten put into his role yet, or anything of that nature. He's still trying to be the good Samaritan, the good, optimistic person.
Because even at that point, he has the journal, so he knows what they were doing, and he's like, he can't bring himself to do that part. Like, he knows what needs to be done, but he hasn't been able to do it because he can't morally bring himself to commit that act, even though he loves his wife so much.
See, and I think she'd have to die.
Yeah,
that's something. That's something I don't know. That's a decision I don't think I could ever make unless it was actually happening. I couldn't even imagine.
Right.
Because personally, I'd like to say she's gonna have to die. I can't kill.
Unless I was in that exact situation with the adrenaline flowing and like able to like make the snap decision. Yeah, I'd be in the same boat. Like I can't tell you what I do.
That's exactly what those people did in that fucking community. One person gets sick and they just saran wrap that guy to a chair, burnt their fucking house to the ground on a snap of a finger.
Yeah, with him in it.
They're still drinking their beverages out on the street, watching it burn
the one
to
guy
the ground.
saying fucking pecan pie.
That's what it was.
From the party.
Yeah. Dude, it was so sociopath and fuck. I kind of get it, like that long of dealing with sick and they're scared of it. That's how scared of it they are. But just a quick decision of murdering somebody, a fucking friend. Because it was like a dinner party. So
it was for a guy whose wife had died 3 years before. Yeah, or he had 3 years with her before she got sick.
The fact that they could just do it on a drop of a dime, like you said, exactly.
Me up.
Which basic.
That world, it just shows how fucking crazy that world is.
Once again, that strength in numbers, they're only unified when things are going good.
Yeah.
Once shit goes south, they're all for themselves. And in this case, they're still individually, especially that fucking Nancy chick. My God. She was the one that was just instigating everybody to just come out with their fucking dirty little secrets. Like,
well, she's the leader of the city or the neighborhood watch. I think that was the funnier part. Like, that's why she was like that. She led the neighborhood watch.
Like a drama queen or some shit.
Yeah. And I think that's a prime example of, like, this show showing like what fear does to humanity. Yeah. Like what we're willing to give up, what we're willing to do when we're scared versus when we're thinking clearly and able to say, no, this is fucked up. Like, why would we do that? Versus I'm terrified that this is going to hurt me. Fucking let them hurt them, and we'll go about our business.
Yeah. I think that's a pretty valid point too. Like, this show did a really amazing job. Like, there's a lot of shows that do that, especially in situations like apocalyptic worlds and stuff. But this show did it in a way that you felt that it was you or your neighbor. Like, it wasn't like it was somebody else's neighbor. It was like this show made they did a really excellent job drawing you into making it seem like this is you, and then you have to deal with your neighbor kind of situation.
I think some of that has to do with the fact that, like, the neighborhood didn't look, other than the fact that, like, they were playing Scrabble and riding a horse, like, the neighborhood didn't look that different. It wasn't like, all of a sudden it's Fallout where, like, everything's just fucking rusted out and fucking blown out. Like, this is just 10 years later. Like, shit's still in good shape. Yeah. There's no internet and, like, the electricity's kind of fucked, but not totally. And, like, so shit's still pretty modern.
I thought it was fucking bizarre. I thought it was weird. Just, I liked it, but it was just weird to see them go into that fucking restaurant, the fast food joint,
the little sheriff
for the medical place,
the clinic.
Just like I'm like, that's where it is. It's back in fast Wendy's.
Yeah, how they painted this community and like kind of just went into it like smoothly. It flowed. Painted this community. It painted this picture. They like him going to his car, grabbing some stuff. You were like, all right, he's about to drive somewhere.
Yeah.
Nope. He fucking goes. I don't know how.
Gets a saddle.
Yeah, gets
out
a
of the
saddle
car.
out of his
Yep.
car. That's what it was. And then you're like, okay, they ride horses.
Yep.
And then you see
Yep.
the car's dusty as fuck.
I like the small little touch that
Yeah.
all the wheels are flat.
Yep.
I like that. That was a good thing. I agree. I thought that was pretty cool. It was like,
Yeah.
oh, he's gonna drive somewhere.
It was just.
They made it
artsy.
look like it was the past, and
Yeah.
I thought that was cool.
Exactly.
So, who do you think had the most drastic storyline? The most drastic change is what I want to know in the storyline. If anything, who was your favorite?
So there's okay. So as a visual aspect, I think early on, I think Gus had a lot of like drastic shit happen, but I think that's visually because like I'm thinking of scenes where like when he's in the tram station and you see the last men for the first time, and that one guy's getting ready to shoot him, and you see that like ghost stag kind of in the doorway that scares the guy off. Like that was weird, and
Yeah,
I
I thought
wanted
that
to know
was-
more about what that was all about.
I thought that was kind of cool though.
It was super cool, and then the fucking bear trap on the guy's head from Big Man, I thought was dope.
And the fact that they didn't
Didn't show a shit
shy
on
away from that at
Yeah.
all. Like
it.
you
Like
just
you let
fucking
a
did it.
child watch that. But I
And,
think
and
as
Gus
far
was
as
like, "Thanks, big man."
yeah,
And
I
sorry
think
for
that's
all the
just
dead
like
people.
and I love that was the name of the episode, by the way.
Yeah.
but
Each episode, the title of it, they used
Is a line in the show.
is
Yeah.
a line in the show, and I thought that was great. You know, like
Yep.
don't do any of that weird deer shit. I was like, yeah, I
do any
like that.
weird
That's
deer
cool.
shit. But like I think Amy's storyline is probably the most drastic because she goes from wanting to be alone to then finding Pigtails, and then all of a sudden, because Pigtails makes a friend, deciding to open the preserve
Yeah.
and protecting the kids, and especially when Abbott attacks the preserve at the end, and she like stays to defend it, and then her last line in the whole season when she rescues Big Man, and she's like, "Rest up, because tomorrow we're going to get our kids back." Like I
Damn.
I thought her story arc was pretty cool, and I'm kind of waiting to see where they go with that.
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's going to be another rescue mission type of storyline, but you know they're going to do it well and give you some shit. that you-
I know that's something that Jason pointed out, and I do agree. Is like there's a lot of cheesy, predictable,
But
kind of whatever.
I've said it's
scenes and
there's
stuff.
predictable moments, but those predictable moments, I'm like, please, I want that to happen, and then it does, and I'm like, yes. you
Yeah.
know, it's not that. It's not
I'm
that.
fine
It's
with
not predictable.
I'm fine with predictable moments happening where that's like, well, that's kind of a cliche thing or a trope in these sort of movies, but like when it's done well, that's fine.
Yeah,
Like,
and
I'm
that's
okay
what I
with
was. I agreed with Jason. I'm like, yeah, there's a lot of typical, predictable, like you said, tropes. Like, oh, we definitely know that's going to happen almost in every episode.
Yeah.
But it was appropriate. Like, you don't need to go do something so unique and so drastic just to get your point across when this was simple enough to do it. Just like
they
the
were
bridge, for example, crossing the bridge with the flowers. Like, of
Yep.
course I saw they're gonna argue and then they're gonna run away. It was all predictable, super predictable. It's been done 100,000 different times.
The
and-
second you saw that bridge was in disrepair, you said someone's fallen through it.
Yep. And it was fine because it was it was appropriate.
Yeah, as long as it's not. I mean, you can do these tropes as long as you don't overdo them or draw them out.
Yeah.
Like there's
And
such a
they
thing as
didn't do
grinding them into
that.
the ground. Yeah.
Yep, and they didn't do that, and that comes with that pace, like you were saying, that flow. Yeah, but Jason, what about you? What about what storyline or story arc or whatever? Which characters did you find drastically changed, or which ones did you like the most?
I mean, I completely agree with Aaron. I think he nailed it, but I just did not pick the same one as him. I'm gonna go with the doctor. I'll go with the
What a
doctor.
Hipster.
Yeah, the doctor is
Doctor.
another interesting one. I'll be interested to see where they go because I mean, I'm waiting to see if they take his wife out of the equation somehow. Like whether she succumbs to the virus or they just fucking say, okay, well, you've been fucking with us and they just pop her in the back of the head, and just to see where they take that storyline.
Thanks for the cure. Bop.
Yeah, that's the other thing I'm waiting on. Like everyone knows that the second he has the cure, that guy's out of the picture.
Yeah. Well, they might keep him, but they're not going to keep his wife. They only need one of them. What the fuck's she going to do? Just keep him going? Well, when they got something, they could just kind of force him to do everything else.
Knowing his love for her, if they take the wife out of the picture, they better put him on suicide watch because that dude's going to fucking kill himself as soon as he has the chance.
The trick being, like, once they have the formula, who says they still need him?
Yeah. Right. That's what I'm saying. Like,
once you have a formula written.
But that's how he tricked them anyway, even though he was lying and all that stuff. He's like, oh, but let me guess, you didn't write this formula down. No, it's all in my head. So, even though Abbott knew he was lying, he saw the opportunity. So,
he saw that he was capable and said, okay, well, let's play.
Yeah. That's exactly what he said.
That's the part I love about this general is that he's not over emotive, but he's not under emotive either. He has just the right amount of like sinister sort of like flair to his rhetoric.
Yeah.
That it's very interesting to me.
I do hope we get more on him because he is the most mysterious one of them all.
Yeah, for sure. He's going to be in a lot of more in season 2. There's no way around it. Because all the characters and everything's leading to where Gus is, and that's where he is. So,
if his beard was shorter, he would look like the villain from the first Hellboy movie.
Oh yeah, I can see that. I actually was thinking, Mr. Roboto?
Oh, you fucker from Sonic the Hedgehog.
Yeah, I was actually thinking that he had it was the glasses though. Doctor, it was the glasses though. I think it really did.
Probably.
If you were to just like give him a mustache and the glasses,
I think that guy would have been a cooler one than Jim Carrey for sure.
But Jim Carrey did good.
He did fine.
Yeah, for me, man, I don't know. See, the Doctor, I agree. The Doctor, I think, has the most transgressive story because he goes from saving people, trying to do the best, loving his job for that matter, saving people, doing the right thing, connecting, touching, like, he was a great doctor. You could see that. Going to, well, then things started changing and I didn't know what to do anymore, but I had to do it. And then next, he couldn't do what he needed to do.
He got tired of all the death, like it sounded like.
Yeah, he couldn't make the decision of who lives and who dies. And so he stops. And next, he's in this rut and he's just kind of living life in this community and shit. But he's still kind of in that same boat, and now he has to choose who lives and who dies in the community based off of the community. He's kind of like forced into it. It's either them or me, or in his case, us, him, his wife. Yeah. Especially knowing that she's sick. Then he gets thrown into that whole fucking, the clinic thing and he has to hide his wife's sickness. I just think that he had the most. He was like up here, and then he just kind of went all the way down here and went back up a little bit. He went on a roller coaster. And now he's on the bottom, and now it's like he's just going straight to hell because that's all that's left. And the fact that he had to make that decision in the last episode where he had to cut open that boy, I was just like, oh my God, he did it. Like, he fucking did it. Like, I was just praying that he wasn't going to do it.
Yeah.
He's such a good person. Like,
he's right.
He keeps such good composure.
Yeah.
As well. Through all these turmoil. He only doesn't like get dramatic or lash out too much.
Not until the house.
Overzealous.
Not until the house when his wife had to like calm him down, basically.
Yeah. Which is good to see, like, finally, dude.
But that's where, like Aram said, you think that she's doing it more out of like, I don't know, like trying to coax him into doing it for her.
Right.
Like I was like, she's
getting desperate because she doesn't want to die. And like he's just moving with her because he's always followed her lead, from what I gather.
And if it came to it, I feel like, not saying that his wife doesn't love him, but it seems like she's more like selfish than what he is. He would give up his life for her, probably not the other way around. So
Yeah.
I will say that I think the Doctor had the most roller coaster, but I was also more shocked out of everybody. The one that shocked me the most, other than Big Man, but would be Bubba, Will Forte. I did not expect him to be a freaking janitor or a maintenance guy.
That was interesting.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay. And then he's just sitting there at a bar, and that's how he meets, and he didn't even get any. I felt so bad. So he basically raises Gus going, oh, your mom was this, your mom was that. But then you find out the truth and was like, well, that's a big slap in the face.
Yeah.
So I did like that reveal.
I think I just want to go back to the Doctor for a minute. I liked his speech, like when he gets caught at the clinic after they find out that Nancy's in the freezer, and someone's found out like when he's trying to say that she was sick, and they're like, well, why didn't you tell us? This community is based on trust. He's like, no, this community is based on hypocrisy.
Yeah,
and he goes into that spiel. I thought that was dope. I liked that speech a lot.
Yeah.
That was pretty accurate. That was pretty good. I like that. So I was really touched on how this is a very dark show.
Yeah.
The concept and everything, but have you noticed that the tone of this film has a fuzzy glow to it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's all very bright.
Yes.
It has a lot of hope
It does.
in the
It does,
beginning
yep.
part of it for sure.
But even
and
towards
it's charming, and
it's not until towards the end where
Yeah.
you start to get just darker and darker and darker.
Exactly.
Like the lighting, they spend more time at night, they spend more time in the dark, and
even Gus finds out the truth and just can't handle that shit.
right.
And he's
Yep.
had the pretty, ran off and had a pretty sweet conversation with Big Man.
Yeah, actually, I think that
Yeah.
was that
was
was
what he
a
talks about.
very
Because it
Yeah, that's
got
where he
really
talks about his
emotional.
family,
And that shit's like hard for me to watch a lot of shows. Like, I don't know. And then, but it got really heavy and it was written really well and it kept my attention.
How did you think compared to other at least shows that have a similar kind of dramatic apocalyptic kind of world? How did you feel about this series last finale?
So I'll just say it now. Like the scene where like Gus is put into the cell with all the other hybrid children, and they basically come in and hug him, and James Brolin is narrating over it about family and whatnot, was when I broke down and was like sitting next to my child, like crying to myself, looking at my laptop. But I thought this season finale, I think the scope of this being a dramatic series versus other ones I've watched is most of the protagonists are children. So it gives a different bend to it. Like, and I think that's really kind of sets it apart because the stakes are always upped when it's children involved. Like everything's got more of an emotional charge when it's a child who's trying to do the right thing or not be affected by this great bad thing happening. And I thought the way they ended the season was great. I'm stoked to see the next one, and as long as it comes out, and we'll see where it goes. But yeah, I'm stoked. Like I liked it a lot.
Yeah. Jason?
Yeah. No issues whatsoever. That's it. Yeah, I loved it. It answered all the beginning series questions and it left more. It was a great cliffhanger. And
did you expect something different than what you got? I mean, did you have something like more of a different image on how it would probably have ended?
No, because I knew somehow Big Man was going to get torn apart from Gus. Yeah. But I liked how they had that great conversation, and all of a sudden Gus is like, I hear a big boom. And all of a sudden he falls over, and you're like, that dude got sniped.
Right. And
well, obviously on the wrong side.
I didn't put that together that it was.
I knew it.
I didn't put it together that it was a gunshot. Like,
me neither.
When he fell over, I was like, what the fuck was that?
And you don't even when he falls over, you're like, are you having a heart attack or something? And then you see Gus in the cage with his hands bloody.
Yep.
And then you're like, fuck yeah, okay. I don't know why I would say fuck yeah, but it was just really
fuck yeah, dead.
It was just really subtle and
Yeah.
And the reveal was smooth.
I actually thought that was brilliant too.
Yeah.
Because he's wearing a red or like a kind of a maroon kind of just like sweater or something. So the fact that you didn't see the blood until it got his hands.
Yep.
And he wasn't looking at his hands, so he didn't even know.
Yep.
He's just like, wake up, or whatever. You know, it's like that was good. That was, I don't know.
And
that was a solid.
I don't know how. I think her name's Amy, the zoo lady.
Yep.
Amy.
How she found Big Man, but I don't care. I'm glad.
Well,
those
she's
two are
always monitoring the
together.
radios.
Okay, and I missed something with those walkie-talkie bears always turning on.
Well, because Gus basically
was a
said
cell
that he
phone.
called. Gus called the
Yeah,
preserve
that's right.
from the airplane
Yeah.
with the
that's
radio. He's
right.
like, I fixed it.
Yeah. I talked to the wizard or whatever. he
Yeah,
said.
But
right there, Gus was like, "Ah, fuck, we're fucked."
yeah, but Bear's using. She was able to hook up and recharge a cell phone.
Oh, okay.
And
Satellite
so she
phone.
basically satellite phone.
yeah.
That's what it is.
She
Which
gets a hold of whatever.
Fucking yeah. I was a little. I was
That was
quite
a nice
surprised.
touch. I didn't expect that, and I
Nope.
was happy to see it. But I did expect Big Men to survive that gunshot.
Yeah,
It was it was
Yeah.
not a heart shot. He's too big.
Right.
He can definitely take a bullet. And for Amy to, and I thought it was funny. Amy just drives up, grabs the teddy bear. Next scene, Big Man's in the back of the truck. Like, not that I want to see it, but that must have been like a 2-hour struggle to get him up there.
I
Or just
thought the
hefting his
same
body.
thing. I thought this at first. I was like, first of all, she's probably nowhere
Exactly.
near him. So how the fuck did she get there so fast?
One of
Second
his
all,
thighs weighs as much as her.
right?
Yeah.
He's got to
Right.
be 312 pounds.
Yeah.
and she's not that big of a person.
Yeah, and I didn't see a dolly or anything,
Nope.
but whatever. She would have to have something, some mechanism
But
to
I-
leverage that shit.
Especially to get him back in her office.
Yeah. That's
Yeah, because how
I'm like,
far
how-
up were they? Like stories
Oh,
up.
good. Like,
Yeah, it's definitely in the middle of that
13 something
skyscraper.
stories, whatever. Yeah, It's that, I thought
And-
the same thing. No,
Damn, you know that
They make it seem like the
elevator's
fucking
not working.
elevators don't work. So
that's what. Yeah, just gotta take the stairs.
But once again, you gotta choose. You gotta ignore some shit.
Yeah.
turns into Ghostbusters. Oh, tell me when we get to floor 13. I'm gonna throw up.
But Birdie is actually the mother, right?
Yep.
And they just okay.
So
Well, she created him. I don't think that she's a birth mother, but like she's the scientist that
Yeah,
created.
That's
him.
why I asked.
yeah,
Okay.
we don't know.
It seems like they left
We
it
don't
open.
know. We still they gave us enough answers to go. He was basically created, but we
Yep.
don't know from what
Mm,
or
yeah.
anything. They didn't really
Valid.
dive that far. But we do
Right.
know that he was an experiment,
Yeah.
and that's as far as we know. I guess that's solid enough too. I guess. I mean, I want to know more.
And that birdie scene
Right.
was nice, but she was like in Alaska or fucking North Pole, snowstorm, all this shit. There's no way you heard that phone. when
She
you
could have
were
been in
outside.
Minnesota for all we know.
She was running like, I don't want to miss this phone call. You wouldn't have heard that phone. I'm sorry.
Hey, you never know.
Maybe
Just
she had
'cause
an
you can't hear
earpiece.
shit.
Maybe she had.
Maybe she went to her hearing aid.
I forget
so-
other people hear better than me. You're right, Tim. Thank you.
Hey, he's the one that's mixing our audio.
Right.
I will say though that I love the ending of this, and I agree, Aram. I cried. I want to know if there's more than one episode that made you tear up just a little bit, because there's actually several for me, but I think I found myself more emotionally attached to this show than I thought. Like I said,
So when Gus comes back and his dad is dead in the chair and he sits next to him and you just see that single tear running down his cheek, that kind of broke my heart.
Yeah.
But I did not cry at it. But
Yeah.
that's probably the next most emotionally pulling scene for me.
yeah, I think for me it was the music though. That music was just beautiful, and it was so. It was very somber and very appropriate. The music
Overall,
just overall, yeah.
perfect. choices, perfect timing, placement, all that.
And I think that had a lot to do with the scenes, because it was the way that the camera would move throughout. It wasn't just about following each character. They gave you the whole room and stuff, leading places, and like that music really synchronized with an emotion before they give you like the actual whatever. And I agree. I think that was probably it broke my heart when he lost his dad.
Yeah.
Because I think that was probably one of the ones that made me cry, because like I just couldn't imagine that being me and Wesley.
Right.
It broke my heart thinking like that, because that's all I could do. That's all I could do is just think about Wesley as this little boy. The entire fucking show. Do you guys have anything you want to mention or bring up? Any questions?
I just want to talk about the pinky twitch.
Yeah, you mentioned this to me the other day. It was very interesting.
I'm curious, like in the auditions, they were like, just let me see how you can twitch your pinky, because it's going to be a big deal in the show. Or if they had pinky twitching training or some shit, because they fucking...
I can't do it. I can't do that.
And how it's just the only finger twitching without moving the rest of the
I
hand.
think this is as close as I can get to
It's
it.
a fucking talent.
Like that. Well, twitch, but...
I can't even see what the fuck. Are you doing it so fast I can't see it?
I must be. I'm just good at it.
Okay. You're sick.
Suck it.
You're sick. That's about it. I think I've talked about everything.
I thought it was something interesting too, because I was thinking that when I was watching the show. I'm like, God, I can't do that.
And it was just a nice subtle sign.
But it was always their
to
left
show-
hand, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I can do it with my left hand.
Yeah.
I can do it with my left hand. I can't do it with my right.
Oh yeah, I can't do it with my left hand. I can do it with my right hand because I'm right-handed.
Yeah, I can twitch without moving the other ones, but anyway.
But yeah, it was a nice subtle way to show that they're sick, they're fucked, without like bloody eyes or ears or...
Yeah.
Right. Kind of like they did in like 28 Days Later.
Right.
Oh no, they're fucking bleeding from the eyes. And
I think he's sick.
there's something wrong with him. Did anybody... I know Jason's answered because we brought this up, but... Aaron, did you like Bear at all?
I did,
That would
but
be
at
a
the
no.
same time, I got the whiny teenager thing too. Like I got
Yeah.
both sides of it. I thought the whole Animal Army thing served a purpose. But I mean, for all intents and purposes, it was kind of a meh.
It was
sort
just
of
the
thing for me.
Lost Boys to me.
Yeah,
Without
it was
all boys.
Yeah. And like, yeah, they make one reference to her feeling betrayed by Tiger in the last episode. Otherwise, once she's out, she doesn't give a fuck.
Yeah.
And like,
I think-
so. Like, I thought it served a purpose to introduce the character, but other than that, it was like, meh.
Yeah, this is the one character. I don't know if you're supposed to care about it, but I don't. But I understand. She's there only to serve the story.
Yeah, and I'm glad that you get more of her towards the end.
Yeah.
That there wasn't just this that we got and then we just had to live with it, that they actually brought her more into a purpose of the story. But yeah, I couldn't stand her. It's like teenage angst. She's no, don't get me wrong. Yeah, she's intelligent. She's got a big point most of the time, but she's very just black and white about everything. And like the big man says, is like, not every, people change. Because she's like, oh, you killed people. Yeah.
Oh,
and then now I don't.
I forget those two don't get
People
along
change.
or whatever. Yeah.
Well, it turns into like a really like buddy cop sort of situation once she joins the team.
Yeah.
Like, am I wrong?
No, they did.
You're right.
And to be honest, I didn't hate it. It
That
was a
my
little, it was a
favorite
little
parts
like,
of her.
it was a little annoying, I guess, but it wasn't.
That was the most fun she was.
Yeah.
Is when
Yeah.
the banter between them two, and then Gus
For sure.
trying to play the middleman or whatever. But
I do like though that you have a big man who lost his family. You have like his that he was trying to create and all that. And then you have the girl who grew up without a family. And then you have Gus, who lost the only family. He's looking for his family. And the whole, I guess, story premise of the idea is that they are family, that they found each other, and now that they are family. And I do like that they've been hitting and settling and, like, with that idea that that's all they need is each other. And they even said it, I think, a couple times. It's like, as long as I got you, I'm good kind of thing. I like that. Yeah. There's just something appropriate, but something nice about that. For such a dark, gloomy kind of show, there's some hope and optimism in there, and it definitely peels through. Well, gentlemen, how would you rate this between 1 to 5 stars, Aram?
Oh, solid 4.5 at least.
Yeah,
for sure.
God damn it, 5 out of 5. I want to say 4.5 because everything I just said about Bear, but I don't want to do what Aram does, so I'm going 5.
Jeez, you're that guy at the steakhouse or whatever. Everybody's getting a steak, and you're gonna get just a fucking veggie burger or something.
Or it's all steaks, and he gets the one different temp.
That's what it is. All medium rare, and you're gonna get the well done. You're that guy.
I'm not, though.
You're the person
you're
we
being
microwave
that guy.
steaks for.
Oh, gross.
That extra well done motherfucker.
Oh, is this made out of rubber? It is now.
4.5. 4.5. Fuck you.
I give it a 5.
Get my steak medium too. Fuck.
I give it a 5. 5 out of 5. I said, Jason says he loves this show, but if he did, he would have given it a 5 without hesitation. I said I love this show, and that's what I'm sticking to it. I don't know. It was brilliant.
Yeah, I had a great time.
I did not expect Will Forte to be so...
perfectly...
good at being a serious actor?
Being such a good, goofy, kind of appropriate dad for
I was like,
this.
Shit, they put him in this role. All right, let's see what happens. And
it was great.
That was the right choice.
Right. I don't know. It was great. Like watching Gus grow up and stuff like that too.
Yeah.
Like when he got his slingshot.
Yep.
He's like, was that a mistake?
Was that a mistake?
Yep.
Yeah.
No. It totally reminded me of Wesley.
Yeah.
I give him something and he, does the same shit and I'm like, I don't know if I should give you that.
And then that rock jumping personal challenge Gus was doing, that was fun to see. Yep. Well, like it was so small and meaningless, like technically, but as soon as he got it, I was like, good for you.
I kind of tore that apart a little bit. I'm like, that kid is fucking huge. It's one step, right? And he can't jump over it.
Part deer, yeah.
Yep. So I love the little, I don't know, small little thing where he sees, I saw Mama today.
Yeah.
Because he saw a deer.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's brilliant too.
Mm-hmm.
It's so appropriate.
Yeah.
Because, he doesn't know his mom. So he sees a deer, it looks like him. And I'm like, oh, yeah.
And he brings that up and Forte's like, no, you didn't. Then he tries to be blunt and then he hides all that box. He buries that box with all that information because the questions got too hard to answer or something like that.
Yeah, he did kind of cop out of being like responsible to the idea of like
he
telling him the truth. But
Gus was too young or some stuff. And I don't know. I don't know. It'd be a difficult situation.
There's something I realized that there were a lot of morals in this show that has to do with like us taking a lot of morals that I discovered. It was all appropriate for the show, for like Gus and things like that, but I felt the biggest thing I took away from this show was don't take for granted what you do have. And basically you never know what's going to happen in the future. But that's all I really took from this show. And that family kind of thing, like, it all kind of comes into one. Just don't take for granted what you have. but
Yeah.
I didn't see a lot of morals that to take away from the show.
Well, it
There's
seemed
plenty
that
in the show, but
a lot of the stuff that seemed to be promoted here was that morals, especially in this day and age when like people are dying and people are trying to do what everyone's doing what they think is right.
yeah.
Even Abbott is doing what he thinks is right, and that becomes morality is fluid from person to person.
yeah.
So I think that's really what you pull from that.
And that's where I think the Doctor had the most dramatic roller coaster ride, because that's all he was battling was ethics.
Yep.
His ethical code and his morality and who he is as a human, to who he has to be for his wife, to who he has to be for humanity. It's like, oh my God, the amount of pressure that guy has on him. It's fucking ridiculous. But he didn't lose his composure, like you said.
Yeah.
It's true. So, all right, gentlemen.
All right.
I
wrap it
look
up.
forward to season 2.
Yeah, me too.
I'm optimistic
Absolutely.
that it'll get signed. We should know in a few weeks, I would assume.
I think the one bad thing about finishing this season so quickly is I have to wait a whole year.
You say that every
I
time.
know. 'cause
At
I hate
least.
waiting. Yeah.
Yeah.
It could be a couple years. You know what I mean? But all right, well, let's close her out. So this is perfect timing. This is Timothy Bennett here,
Was there Banyan?
Jason Chandler.
and we will catch you later. Peace.
Peace.
Thanks.